It's time to talk about the important issues for the natural state. And there's only one place to turn for that. Opportunity Arkansas's Nick Horton. You can find Nick's work at opportunityarkansas.org.
Hey, good Wednesday morning to you. Welcome back to First News here on the 12th of March, just about 20 minutes in front of 8 o'clock, and the Arkansas legislative session is still going on, and here to update us on the progress and what some of the new things are this week is Public Affairs Director Jay Robertson in for Nick Horton this morning from Opportunity Arkansas. And Jay, welcome back to the show. How are you today?
Hey, thank you. I'm doing great. Good to be here.
We appreciate it. So, Jay, I wanted to start today with a couple of foster care reform bills that passed out of committee earlier this week. What did those bills say, and how would foster care in our state change if they are enacted?
Yeah, absolutely. So two really important pieces of legislation moved through the Senate Judiciary Committee this week dealing with foster care. Foster care is a priority for us at Opportunity Arkansas because our system's been in kind of a delicate state for a while, and we see the impact it can have on families. And these two bills are sponsored by the Senate Judiciary Chairman, Senator Alan Clark, Senate Bill 325 and 326. And there's a handful of provisions in here, but really the focus is strengthening family integrity. So making sure that when kids go into the system, we see the numbers, like less than a third of these kids wind up finding a permanent home. They bounce around, they move an average of 5 times once they're in the system, and they can just have a really negative impact on their long-term outcomes because we know how big family integrity is. So these bills basically say when they go into the system, we need to consider family integrity as a guiding principle for how we're making decisions about where they're placed. Another important part of these bills is it allows parents to actually position themselves to have their rights reinstated. When parents have made a change in their lives and cleaned up, they should be able to go and file and ask to have their rights restored. So there's a handful of provisions here. Those will move to the Senate floor now, but we're very supportive and really excited to see these bills moving because we've seen the challenges the state's foster care system faces. And it's just really important to put family integrity at the forefront when we're making these decisions.
Jay, do you expect these bills as they go in as they go to the floor for the vote? Do you expect them to pass? Do they have the support?
I think there's a lot of support within the legislature because Arkansas is a pro-family state. Because there's a lot of provisions in the bill, we'll probably see questions or potentially amendments to the bills as they go throughout the process. But I think everybody realizes that the goal of the child welfare system is to first and foremost protect children, but then also preserve family integrity. And how we balance that is really important. I think we've gotten it wrong in the past, and Senator Clark, who's running these bills, is very passionate about it, and we've seen how the system can cast too wide of a net sometimes. And I think the big takeaway that came out in committee is we don't want to be pulling kids and families unnecessarily into the system. I mean, we heard stories about a mom who was working a job as a delivery driver and left her kid in the car to go from the driveway to the house and got reported for neglect.
Wow. And
wound up getting put on a registry that makes it hard for her to find a job in the future. And, foster care should really be used as a last resort to protect children who really need it. And I think that's the focus of these bills. And so we're excited to see them move through the process this session.
Yeah, well, we'll see. Obviously, I hope that those pass, but we'll see. We'll see what comes up with those as we're talking with Jay Robertson, who's the Public Affairs Director for Opportunity Arkansas. So, Jay, Opportunity Arkansas submitted a public comment on the Medicaid bill calling for a real work requirement. So, can you explain what it is exactly that the organization submitted, and then what a real work requirement would look like?
Yeah, absolutely. This is an issue we've talked a lot about. Because of the sheer number of people in Arkansas that are on this Medicaid program, many of these are able-bodied working age adults, and a work requirement would help move people out of dependency so they're no longer dependent on that program. The details matter though, and so the current status of the waiver that was prepared and submitted by DHS falls short of really having any real requirements. And so our comment basically highlighted that and suggested some ways that it could be improved to say that we want people working, and there need to be some teeth in there to ensure that we're not just continuing to grow this program and grow its role as like a dependency trap as opposed to a real safety net. So we submitted a comment there to suggest some ways to improve that by requiring people actually work a minimum number of hours per month. And we were joined by lots of others. So I saw that more than a third of the public comments that were submitted were along those same lines, asking for an improvement in the waiver. And so we're optimistic that we have time to get this right, because it's clearly a priority of the Trump administration. The policy statement passed by Congress several weeks back called for a work requirement with these kind of requirements in place. And so if they can pass Congress, we can certainly get it done here in Arkansas.
Yeah, I mean, you would sure hope so. And so, and we've talked about this particular thing several times, especially with Nick in the past. And yeah, I mean, it's important. And the work requirement that's in there right now, not a real work requirement. And so, hopefully, they will get that fixed before it passes here in Arkansas. Last week, Jay, there were some meetings on a bill that makes a correction to the Public School Choice Act, and it dealt with intra-district transfers. And so can you talk a little bit first about what that bill is about, and then why some superintendents are not in favor of it, at least from what I read in Non-Debatable last week? It sounds like there's some school heads, their district heads that are not in favor of having intra-district transfers.
Yeah, it seems a little bit like deja vu, having this fight again around education freedom. We have the LEARNS Act, which provides for education freedom accounts and public school transfers. But what this bill was really aimed at addressing was there's still some limitations in place for kids that want to transfer between schools within a district. So as opposed to moving from one district to another, say you're zoned for a particular elementary school, the one across town is much better. You want your kids to go to that one. Right now, there's still a large degree of discretion that districts have to deny those transfers and basically prevent parents from exercising that education freedom for their kids.
Yeah.
And so what this bill did was basically clarify that, to say the intent of this is not to allow for you to arbitrarily deny those transfers. Thought it would be pretty simple because of the work we've done on education freedom, but it actually faced some challenges in committee.
And so what happened in the end? Will that move forward with the inter-district transfers, or where is that now?
So it failed in committee. It can come back. It's been re-referred to Senate Education. The interesting thing that happened, so we actually posted the video of this hearing, and it's pretty remarkable. You can see it on our website at Opportunity Arkansas. We posted the video on YouTube. You had superintendents come and say that this would be difficult to administer, and it could create problems for the city if people want to send their kids to a different school. It create traffic problems. Whoa. That's the first time we've heard that argument used against education freedom. But ultimately, it's kind of the same old arguments that are used against education freedom in the past, and there's just really not a good reason for this, because in the end, parents know best where their kids should go to school. They're best equipped to make those decisions. And so we're optimistic we'll see that bill revived, passed through committee, because it's clear that what we've done is working. Parents are very satisfied with the education freedom accounts, and Arkansas is an education freedom state. We're a national leader here, and so there's no reason that this bill shouldn't make it through the legislature this year.
Yeah, well, we'll keep an eye on that one as it keeps moving through. Now, as far as one other bill I wanted to ask about before we wrap up today, Jay, how are things looking for the bill to allow judges to declare their party affiliation on the ballot, so that we know kind of who they're affiliated with when we're voting for them? It's not a blind vote, which obviously has kind of sent our Supreme Court sideways at this point. But is that something that you feel has the support to get passed in this session?
Yeah, so that one's actually a constitutional amendment. So
Okay.
Our Constitution actually prevents judges from declaring an affiliation. So we'll need to amend the Constitution to do that. We've got a House and a House resolution that's been introduced for that amendment. And the way that process works, the legislature can refer out 3 per year. And over the next couple of weeks, that'll be presented in committee. The committee will then winnow those 40 or so that have been introduced down to 5 and decide